back to another show. Hurricane H here. Today we're live on the Fit and Fab channel as well as iHealth channel and iHealth Radio. And again, as always, special guests. Today we have a very unique guest in the aspect that she is a reality TV personality. She is a fitness person. She's a para athlete. Um, I mean, she's a lot model, actor. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we could say about her, but I will leave as usual the introductions for her to tell us about her life and who she is. It is Tiphany Adams, all the way from I believe California,
Yes.
and so she will talk to us about the power of resilience and determination in life, and that is something that in the fitness world in general we always strive for, right? And a lot of people sometimes always find any excuse why things do not work their way. Well, today maybe we'll have a different vision and a view about it once we hear the story from Tiphany. So Tiphany, first of all, thank you for joining the show and being with us. And give us a little bit about yourself. Tell us your story.
Well, I have many stories, right? I mean, I think we all have stories that we have on a tape loop, right? And we can, when you talk about resilience, right? I think we can have this tape loop of playing a victim or being a victor, right, of our circumstance or our reality. So, but I will go into the main story that most people love to hear or are very curious, inquiring minds love to know, why do I use a wheelchair? And that is from a drunk driver hitting me in a head-on vehicle collision. That it's been so many years now that it's crazy to think. I'm like, wow, I've been in this chair for 20 years now. But I am very fortunate to be a sole survivor. Sadly, three other people tragically had lost their lives at 130-mile-per-hour impact. And I was in the back seat of the car. And I did have a sober driver. It was just one of those things that you never think it can happen to you. And after the accident or the divine intervention, because I am very blessed to be alive. So I definitely, I feel grateful and honored to be able to be here today to share the story of what has happened in my past. But it's after being in a coma for 3 weeks and waking up, you have a newfound love for life, and miracles, they happen, and I thank God for that every day, because I feel that if I hadn't had my faith, I don't know if I would be where I am today. So, and family support, obviously.
Well, yeah, I mean, so 20 years ago, you were
Yeah.
very young, and unfortunately, to your point, we all think that we're always safe because we drive safe, we're sober, we do the right thing. It's never about us, right? It's about whoever else is on the road that
Yep.
can come on from nowhere, and that's it. And to your point, sadly, three people tragically lost their life, and again, you were not just 100% safe out of it. I mean, you came out of it, through a whole different ordeal eventually over time. And I mean, first of all, thank God. I mean, you're here, and that's a blessing. And to your point,
Mhm.
I'm sure you have a different view of life and a different feel for it. And that's what makes you today. And that's what makes your story a very inspiring one. And I think for everyone watching or listening today, this is a real, moment where we all have to first appreciate life for it is, and then also potentially appreciate, all the things that we can do, and certainly never lose faith on period and out. That's really what I think, a very hard, core of today's, show. So Tiphany, now you said 3 weeks in a coma and
Mm.
you were out, and of course you had to go through a lot of rehab and I mean, first, I'm sure the trauma itself was difficult to realize what happened. Can you tell us a little bit about that part, if it's possible?
Yes. Well, the interesting part about it is I didn't know you don't I didn't really know I was in a coma. It was very weird. It was like I was stuck between worlds, if that makes sense. It was like I was in a dream state and I wanted to wake up from that dream state, but I couldn't. And so there was different incidents that would happen while I was in that dream state. And uh, I had two helicopter rides while this, from the wreck at the scene of the accident. They had to cut me out of the car, the jaws of life. And then that's when I was metaflighted. And then another time to another hospital to do the emergency surgery on my spine because I sustained a spinal cord injury. But in the dream state, the coma, I'm waiting for a helicopter ride to go watch an NSYNC concert, when I woke up and I realized. But it's my cousin, while she was talking to me, she's telling me she's taking my cousin to go to NSYNC. So it's very interesting how you're still coherent. But I didn't know this until after I woke up and I started sharing the stories to my father. He was like, whoa, you know, thinking that maybe I wasn't hearing them or fully understand, but I was. Everything that they were telling me, I was happening in the dream state that I was in. All the things, the events that they were talking to me about actually were happening in my dream reality of the coma. It's so very strange. So when I woke up, I didn't necessarily know I was paralyzed. They don't tell you right away, like, hey kid, you're shit out of luck, you can't walk. They don't do that. Like,
They gotta
my
ease it in.
yeah. My father brought a wheelchair to the side of the bed and I'm like, why is that there, and he's like, you're just kind of sick right now. I'm going to show you where you've been living for the past few months. And I'm like, whoa, a month? Like what? Like, you know what I mean? The time, it evades everything. You don't, you have no concept of time. And so, yeah, then I didn't understand why my legs were numb and tingly because they literally feel like, um, when your leg falls asleep and
Yep.
it's that tingly little tingle, 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 tingle. Oh, that's what they feel like. And I was like, why can't I get this feeling of tingling to go away? Like, and that's when my father brought me to the third story and explained to me kind of like, look, God has blessed us with a miracle and that's your life. Let's be grateful for this. And then I already had a feeling what he was about to tell me before I didn't even know what paralysis or, none of the things meant. I was a senior in high school, so he told me I was paralyzed. So, but I knew that from that moment, the day, I had a very, very, very divine purpose and calling, and I didn't know how I would fulfill that. It was a lot of pressure. I'm like, why did I live? I don't understand. For a few years, I didn't realize what survivor guilt was, but I did have that. And
That's done.
because I was not certain why I was the one that lived and everyone else lost their lives. And so I felt, and I replay a couple incidences like, oh my gosh, only if I would have done, oh, only if. And then I'm like, no, I can't do those. Just focus. And what helped me a lot was the serenity prayer. That really helped me a lot every day because it was, the serenity prayer, I'm sure.
Yes.
Right. So that helped me a lot. And then Joni Eareckson Tada, she's a quadriplegic, a very, very beautiful artist. And that was the first person that like inspired me that I found that was in a wheelchair. Her artwork and stuff. And then, yeah, you do have a new profound love for life when you realize how precious it really is,
But listen, no one can potentially even comprehend, what you've gone through. And it's when you're talking about your dad. I mean, I have a daughter, and she's in high school, so I can just imagine your dad at the time, going through this, with you, and has to first of all to accept it, and also to support you. And I'm sure that's not easy because I mean, when something happens to your kids is a tough thing. So I mean, I have to give him kudos, and to you, of course, for just, being strong, and he is being strong. I guess the whole family was there for you,
Yeah.
and that is a big deal. I mean, there's nothing. The power of prayer is important. Again, these are all things, and you've taken the right, approach about it. Like, look at somebody to look up to, and you found someone that really inspired you as well. And today, we want you to be that inspiring person to a lot of folks, and whether they have a problem or not. I think, the power of will, the power of, perseverance, the resilience, all that stuff is a key message that we want to share with folks. And also from this platform, I mean, somebody did something wrong by going crazy, driving 130 miles an hour recklessly, and three lives were lost, and a fourth one had to be, adjusted over life. It is not something that is acceptable. And for folks that are watching and listening, please be careful out there. Sometimes not about you, it's about other people's life and so on and so forth. So be careful. Don't go crazy. It's not worth it. Again, I just wanted to share that, for a moment there, because, it's pretty close to heart, knowing, I can see, I can just put myself, in the shoes of your dad and the family and my daughter. It is tough. So again, I am so impressed and so inspired here. It's like speechless here. So now that was at high school.
Yes, I
You
should specify it was 130-mile-per-hour impact. So we
okay?
were going to see the woman that was drunk. She was drunk driving, and that lady, she was drunk driving and was passing over the double yellow lines. And so when she passed the second semi, that's when it was a head on. And then the impact, the license plates were
Right.
melted together. So that's how that happened. But yeah, drinking and driving, not a good idea.
Yep. Definitely don't drink and drive. Never, never, never. Take an Uber or Lyft, whatever. So it's crazy. So yes, so that was high school, and it's crazy because in high school there's a lot of those, especially in the senior year. There's a lot of signs all over the place. Now this is not you guys. Somebody totally off just came through, and it happened. So again, no matter how you can pretend that life is just gonna go by, things can happen. So be careful.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, listen, you have a smile and you're doing great. So let me ask you a question. You went through the next phase of life, adjusting. So I'm sure that took a while. How long was really the adjustment time?
Well, that's interesting because I guess even in the hospital, I started to go back to my I'm very strong-willed, as you'd say. I'm very independent. I'm very I even I snuck out of the hospital at one point because I had these really big, bulky wheelchair. And one time they let me borrow a really nice wheelchair that actually fit me, and it was cherry red. And I'm like, yeah, this one I'll go out in. I didn't want to go out because they had me in this. I was like, I'm not going on the outing. I'm okay. But then I had borrowed. They let me borrow the red one for physical therapy. So I told my aunt. I said, Auntie Chris, they said that we can go to the mall today. And my aunt's like, oh, honey, this is so okay. Let's go. Mind you, I have no idea how to take a wheelchair apart, nothing. I told my aunt, meet me in the front of the hospital, okay? She's like, okay, honey. So she brings her old Cadillac in the front of the hospital in San Jose. And then I don't even know how to get in this car. I was still using a sliding board because I didn't know how to transfer. Mind you, I had to learn everything all over again. I didn't even know how to dress myself without falling over because, it's very hard once you lose your balance and your leg, your equilibrium, right? Anyways, this guy who's been living in the hospital rolls up. He has this crazy hair. He looks like Albert Einstein. He has a cigarette in his mouth. And he's like, do you need some help with that? I'm like, yes, please, because I'm freaking out looking at the hospital staff, knowing I'm not supposed to be out of the hospital. But my aunt, she has no idea. I'm just excited to go shopping to the mall in a wheelchair, like it's nice and pretty. Anyways, he takes it apart in like 5 seconds. I'm like, I was impressed. We went to the mall. We get back. We have food, and I guess the whole hospital was calling me on this intercom and stuff. My dad and my grandpa are at the front, standing at the hospital, all very like at the entry of the hospital. And I roll in, and my auntie Chris has no idea that I was still not supposed to sneak out. And my grandpa goes, Dan, aren't you going to say something to her for sneaking out of this? My dad's like, nah. The little bitch is back. It was a very proud moment because he's like, he knows I've always been, and for him, it makes me almost like want to get choked up because for him, it was like, she's going to be okay. She's going to be okay. That was his like pivotal moment for him to be reassured. She's going to handle this. Okay. And hey, it's
It
been
did.
tumultuous. Yeah. Yeah. It's been very interesting. There's been many incidences throughout, but I just really focus, and my family is pretty funny. I have a very, very big family. And yeah, humor is always kind of the coping mechanism for all of us.
So your circles, other than the family, how did they take that? How did you manage that? I mean, was there anything changing? Did they change their behavior towards you, or positive or negative, for that matter?
No, I feel like it was very accepting in high school. I always begged my dad to be on home study. He never would let me. No, no, no. I just was like, please. I had some a very interesting dynamic growing up. My mother struggled with addiction. So with my mother struggling with addiction and things like that, it was a divorced family. I just didn't want to go to school. I wanted to be doing home study, but my dad's like, no, 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 no. But needless to say, after the accident, my dad's like, you don't have to go back to school. If you want, you can stay home study. And I'm like, you know what? The least I can do for my dad, is graduate like he wanted me at the high school. So they projected I wouldn't be out of the hospital as soon as I did. I'm very fortunate. I got out months and months earlier than expected. I went back to school. I got out December 21st. Mind you, okay, listen. So October 15th, the wreck happened. 3 weeks in a coma. I wake up. I'm like, what's going on? No. First question, when can I leave this place? They're like, what? I had a feeding tube, everything. They're like, you can't leave yet. I said, okay, can you keep me here legally? And my dad's like, relax, just, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna embrace this process. But like I said, October 15th, 3 weeks in a coma, November wake up, December 21st, I gotta leave after having 30 hours of surgery on my body. I go, I start school again. I graduate with my class. That summer I get my driver's license. I start college, and I'm holding down a job and going to school full time. So that was how I coped. Okay. When I went back to school, everybody was super like embraced me fully. I ended up getting nominated for prom queen. I'm like, is this for charity, guys? Like, no, no. I was
Oh,
like, but it was really awesome. Everyone was very loving, and I started realizing, you know, I have the potential, right, to make a difference. Um, but again, it was a lot of pressure. I'm like, I'm still just in high school now. I'm in college. Like, it was a lot. But I didn't deal with the reality. To be very transparent, I didn't deal with it fully until I think it wasn't more. I was always happy to be alive, grateful, but I didn't really, really, really fully deal with it completely until I moved to LA, and it was in my face. Everyone's asking me constantly, and um, then I pitched a TV show with friends, and then they got picked up, and then I was constantly having to repeat the story over and over and over again. When you know what I mean, I started having massive panic attacks, and then that's a whole nother thing that I had to figure out how to handle trauma and releasing it from the body, because that happens, right? We hold on to it, like I said, a story, and we
mhm.
continuously tell that story, and
It gets to you eventually.
yeah, you know what I mean? You can only say it with a laugh and a joke for so long until it finally hits you and you're like, yeah, that was real. Yeah,
Wow. So that brings us to that same topic. Now I know you've been on the Sundance, Push Girls, and I
Yep.
think that's a reality TV show, right? Um,
Hmm.
and was that the one you were referring to, or there was some other?
Yes,
So that
yes,
was
that.
it.
Mhm.
And then also I think you appeared in Dr. Phil and in Good Morning America. So was that where you were saying the same story, or there was just different
Yeah.
opportunities?
Yeah, I feel like it was a constant, like, yeah, we would have to bring it up a lot, and it was more in my face, kind of like, yeah, it's time to deal with this. And I still wasn't necessarily dealing with it. And then it started coming out with panic attacks. Like, it's like people don't understand, like, trauma has to be released somehow, whether it's through movement, sweat, but it gets stuck in the body, if you don't release it. You know what I mean? And there's different ways to do that. And I wasn't really aware. I didn't know yet. I was still learning, on the spiritual side of things, more or less, like acupuncture, Reiki, massage, all of these different components. And yeah, I ended up having to start, because I was praying, 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 but it wasn't working. And I was always saying, Second Timothy, first 1:17, you are that of a sound mind. I was always saying it, but it wasn't necessarily fully working. It helped, but not until I sought out other healing modalities, which was, um, it's kind of like a hypnotherapy, but it was, I didn't get necessarily hypnotized. It was like a talk therapy, but it helped purge. And I went into, like, it was called a healing crisis. I cried for 2 weeks straight, and I couldn't stop. It was very surreal. So I want to go to hypnotherapy school for that purpose, because I realized it healed. It healed me. But I am not kidding when I say this. I cried for 2 weeks straight. I couldn't be alone. I was shaking, I was shivering, and I really believe it's because I didn't deal with the trauma, even from some incidents that happened in childhood. I think it was all just after I did that, no panic attack ever. I mean, maybe I had one a few years ago, but yeah, I mean, and
Yeah,
I was having them a lot.
yeah. I mean, I had a show recently with a doctor, psychologist, and we talked about the power of trauma, in the youth, and then what happens later on. It manifests, and you're right. I mean, it has to come out. I mean, you have to deal with it eventually, and different ways people cope. And again, you found a better way out of it ultimately, and that took you to the world of fitness.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So so
And
so
that's
so
key.
so today we're on the Fit and Fab channel, and so you are Fit and Fab, and and the question is, how do you? I mean, I've seen pictures, I've seen stuff about you, like you're really at the gym, really pushing in and doing, all the stuff that some people may not even do, even if you push them there. So that's strong will. That is something that is not for everyone, and
Yeah.
going through everything you had to go through, and you're really making it happen. You're killing it. So how did you transit to that? What pushed you to go there?
Well, so my aunt, we had a lot of gyms out here, and so it was the first opportunity that I had to actually, mind you, this is 20 years ago. So there's been evolution within reason, okay, with people living with disabilities and getting equal employment opportunities. The American Disability Act wasn't passed until like 1991. It's really, very, really, really key for people to understand equal rights for those living with a disability. Like, that shouldn't even be a thing. But I
All
mean,
right.
to have opportunities in the employment and workforce, and a different array, right, of things, in society, because you have a disability, but or a physical challenge, right? There used to be, by the way, this is gonna blow your mind, and there used to be a law called the ugly law. Yes, yes.
I'm sorry, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, there is a law, and it is called the ugly law, and you could not be in public if you were, say, physically or aesthetically, um, not pleasing, in the sense of where it made other people feel uncomfortable. Say if you had a very extensive disability or something like that, there was an actual law. I was just blown away by that. So, needless to say, we've made some progress with the American Disability Act, but we are still paving the way, because even in film and television today, even today, 2021, the roles of characters being, you know, the way they are presented or whatnot, the role, they're not necessarily having that condition. They may not even be blind or deaf or in a wheelchair or an amputee or all of these factors. And so we're 5%. I think it's about 5% of people are actually getting to play these roles. So I think, we're trying to get equal rights more or less, and I feel like it is coming along. So with that being said, about how you're saying about how I fell into the fitness, my aunts, two of them, and a cousin, bought some gyms, and then so I started working at a gym when I was I want to say 19. So about from 19 to 24, I circulated between all of the different gyms. When they'd open a new one, I'd go in and I would work with the new employees, with all of the Northern California region. And so then I fell in love with fitness. And then when I moved to Los Angeles, it was pushed onto a whole nother level, and it really is important. I think
So
everyone, needs to
you,
be active.
you did compete, right? I mean,
No, I didn't.
you
But
didn't.
I
All
was,
right.
there was opportunities, but at the time, which I had met and I spoke with Jim Mannion, the head of bodybuilding, and because I was like, oh, I would love there to be a pro card for women in wheelchairs because there was one for men. And then at that point, I was like, I was doing well on, pretty decent toe to toe with the people in the wheelchair bodybuilding world, and they weren't offering pro cards for women in wheelchairs. So I thought, like, I did travel. I'm very fortunate. I love fitness. I love health. I traveled to the Arnold's, Barcelona, Germany, and all of the circuit, the shows and things like that. I love it. I do. I love fitness. So very
But
fortunate. Very, very blessed.
are you still active in the fitness world?
Yes, I
But it's
am.
not the same level.
It's changed a bit because right now where I'm at, the gyms are still closed. I'm
Oh
like,
yeah. I mean,
oh my God.
before COVID.
So I have a gym in my living room. I have a gym in my living room, but it's definitely not the same as much with working out with your compadres, you know what I mean? Like your friends, and you have everybody around. Um, so that's why I'm constantly more outdoors and doing nature stuff. And but yes, I do still work in the fitness field when the opportunities present themselves. We aren't doing expos now. That was my love, and what I would do is I would travel different fitness expos, represent different brands, whatever company that I had the contract with. Um, yeah, so it's crazy though right now for all
Now,
of us.
now you do have, well, yeah, I mean, fitness again. We're talking from the Fit and Fab channel, and we do have a fitness model. We do virtual now. It's not the same as physically being out there, and really, really to your point, there's machines, there's all kind of stuff, and it's more people engaged now. It's like you can't even go in there. I mean, you're in California, one of the most hit states. We're in the Jersey and New York area, same thing. We're very, very everything's still closed for the most part, and or very limited access, and it's not the same. The world has changed, but nevertheless, the idea is we still can do it, and you are doing it. And that's
Yes.
really the bottom line. You can't stop because of whatever their circumstance. Outdoors out there, you guys are lucky the weather is not as bad as on the East Coast. So
It's
you can go
66
out.
today. I'm like, it's a little cold. LA's nice in the 70s, but it's about 66 today. So
It's about 30 something here. So yeah, it's bad. It's cold. You can't go out. I mean, you could, but you'd have to really wrap up nicely.
I can't. As much as everyone's talking this about California, I'm like, bruh, we got 5 climates. Okay. That's why it's one of the most expensive states, because I can go to the ocean, the mountains, and the desert all in one day. Like,
You
if I
could.
really wanted to.
I've been to LA. You're right. It's right there. It's all there. You're an hour away from everything there. Well, less actually.
Yeah, I
So
live in Northern California now. So, I'm not that far from Tahoe, from Carmel, San Francisco, Sacramento,
you're
it's
up the
all,
hills. You're up there. It gets
I'm in,
cold
I'm
there.
in the middle, the very, very middle. Basically, it's called the Central Valley of California.
All right. Well, it's still well 66. I'll take. And you do.
Yeah, it's nice. It's not too hot. I couldn't believe it when I moved back. I think it was 3 years ago. I was like, oh my God. because I was down south for 10 years and you get so acclimated to your environment. You know what I mean?
It was a long time.
Yeah. And then I'm like, whoa, how did I live in this cold? Oh my God, but it's not that cold. It's just much colder from there. So,
Yeah, well, you got used to the new heat, and now you went down, into like 10 degrees, 15 degrees less
yeah.
in
Yeah.
average. So, yeah, no, it's, listen, climate, but you adjust. Everybody, humans can adjust to anything, but as long as we're willing to. And that's really the bottom line. It's really the willness, the will, the power that drives us, right? So you did, I did read about modeling. I believe you did some of that. And but you do have a companies. You do something today. You have your own site and you help people. Let's talk about that.
I do help a variety of people depending. So I have a gift that was actually it was realized after the wreck, more or less. Even though my mom would tell me when I was little, "You're a very powerful little girl. You'll realize when you get older." I had no idea what she's talking. I'm like, my mom's nuts. And but then now I see, like, I have dreams of things before it happens. When I talk to certain people, I have this ability to uh, just get information sometimes when I'm talking. You know what I mean? And it's usually it's directly to help them with their healing process and whatever it might be. If it's a loved one that's passed away, sometimes that comes through. um, and I had to learn just to embrace that and accept it instead of looking at it like, oh my gosh, like that's evil, because I was told from some people that, oh, you need to watch out for that, that's not from God. But I know for a fact that it's a very, 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 very beautiful gift because of the people I've helped along my path, that they wanted a message from someone that they haven't talked to since they passed, 8 years ago or however long. And I don't know how I know these things. I don't, but I just say, like, God, if it's the message to help them in their healing, allow it to come through. Um, yeah, so that's one of the things they do. Sometimes it's just fitness, if that's all they want. Then we do like a fitness training session. I have that on my website as well. And I do also sales and education. That's another side that I do, and the retail beauty and skincare.
Oh, nice. You got a little bit of everything, and that's really, it keeps you motivated, keeps you going, and
Yeah.
that's beautiful. Well, again, this is the ideal condition here. You have all these things, and there are people that don't do one thing of what you're doing. And it's amazing that you have the will and the ability and the fun part about it, and you're doing it with pleasure and you're enjoying it. And there are people that will sometimes struggle with one thing and they may not be willing to do more. I think a good message today is that you can do it. Bottom line, no matter what, if you have, there's a will, there's a way, right? I think
Yeah, I
that's
love
really
that
a
one.
powerful message here.
Especially if there's two wheels, there's definitely a way, or four, because the chair. So
Well,
um, I like to say this. Really, I feel like this helps a lot of people too. Sometimes when I'm working with a client, is focus on three things, and the three things I feel really important is such as, like, um, having some. Are you there?
I
I
mean,
don't know. It kind of like blacked out or something. Can you still see me?
I see you.
Okay, well, that's fine. That's all we need. So right now, I want to keep going. So three things to keep yourself, really something to look up to. Okay, something to look forward to, and then the other thing is something to chase. So those three components, those three things, really help put things into perspective. Something to look up to, something to look forward to, the excitement, something to chase. Okay, that thing that keeps you, that motivation, that momentum going, because it's all about keeping that momentum. People are like, oh, I'm so sad, I'm so this. Number one tip, besides those other three, is get moving. Get moving. Get outside of your head. Get moving. Get outside. Even if you don't feel like it, it's okay to honor that occasionally, but you have to get moving. Movement, emotion creates energy, like getting things flowing. So
Wow. So Tiffany, I know you can't see me. I got to figure that something's happening here. My feed is not, taking the
No,
video.
it's I'm getting messages and messages, and I don't think I can turn on airplane mode, so that's why I was just am pushing. That's what happened. But
No, no worries. So just a message to the people that are listening to or looking at us or watching this particular show. What would you say to people today? And which you probably stated many times over.
I feel, as my great uncle would say, just have fun. Literally, just have fun in whatever you're doing. Even those things that you feel like you don't want to do. The whole fake it till you make it. Smile and know that you have the opportunity to enhance someone else's day. Even when you're not feeling like it, you're inspiring someone. They might be looking up to you in certain aspects or certain instances. And then another thing that I really love to do, and I recommend it, is small acts of kindness. Okay. But to some people, it could be a very big act. For example, I went through Starbucks. I got a free water yesterday. Free water. I just got a water, but I'm like, you know what? They could charge you or say something, and I just gave the lady $5 tip. She's like, oh my god, what? Doing leaving the money for the person behind you, paying for the person in front of you. You know what I'm saying? Like those little things, I feel like add up, and it keeps that good energy going. You know.
Well, listen, that that is pretty powerful stuff. I I think that we've delivered a message today, to a lot of folks. What I would like to say is, first of all, follow Tiffany, on Instagram, Facebook, and again, check out her site. The description of her company and her work is actually in the video description. And so please, feel free to look at that and touch base with her. Again, we I really enjoyed every moment of this discussion, and I'm sure a lot of people today will probably, just like, wow. And maybe they can take something out of, today's, show and maybe implement in their lives. And so again, that's my message to the audiences here. So Tiffany, thank you for being with us on the show. Thank you for
Thank
accepting
you.
the invitation. And for those of you who are watching or listening in, thank you for catching up this, the show, talk show here today, and of course listening in on the radio. And we will be talking soon. Thank you. Bye
Thank you
bye.
so much. Take care.